This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. Brought to you by Fitness World, your fitness, your way. Visit fitnessworld.ca. Many gym goers consider fitness their sport. HYROX is the world's fastest growing fitness race. They've aimed to create a competitive platform for gym enthusiasts to showcase their hard work and skills. The company has been on a path of rapid global expansion. On today's episode, we hear from General Manager of Europe, Jacob Tilley, who's joining us all the way from Germany. Jacob has over 2 decades of fitness industry experience. On the podcast, he's sharing his personal story behind the creation of HYROX, how they've managed to grow so quickly out of the pandemic, their goals for gym affiliations, and at the end, he may have gotten a commitment out of me to train for a race in the future. Before we get to the episode, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly that feature industry thought leaders and influencers. Plus, we are continuing our gym and wellness haven tours with inspiring founder stories. I'm your host, Chrissy Van, and we're on a mission for everyone to live a life fit and well. This is ATFW. Well, Jacob, I'm so happy for you to join me, and it's pretty cool because you're my first guest joining me from Germany. So I love the fact that fitness is something that unifies all of us, and that is something that HYROX really exemplifies because you tout yourselves as fitness for everybody, something that everybody can take part in. So first of all, before we learn about yourself, what is HYROX? Because in Canada, we haven't had the chance to experience it yet.
You nailed it right there. So HYROX is a fitness race that, once when we designed it, it was always our goal to be as inclusive as possible and design this for everyone. And HYROX is a combination of, running, something that millions and millions and millions of people are doing almost every day, and functional training movements, which, we picked. They're all low skill. I would say, yes, you definitely should train them before entering a HYROX, but from a capability of, an able body, so not injured or 80 plus, I would say, because our oldest finisher is I think 78.
Right on.
Everyone is capable of doing these movements. I would say maybe the wall balls are a little exception. You should have to practice them, going into a deep squat and throwing like a heavy object over your head. But other than the wall balls, I think everyone could do pretty much without having it done before. And we combined these two ways of training, so the endurance part with running and the functional training part, and designed this as a fitness race for everyone.
And so when did you come into the equation? Have you been, because it was 2017 that it began, so have you been with them through the beginning of the journey, or where did you enter the picture?
Yes, so I was with HYROX pretty much from minute zero. Our CEO and founder, Christian, he had the idea of putting together a fitness race, reached out to my wife a long time ago. She put together the sportive concept, and then, we tested it. We tested it, just me and her, then we tested it as a team. And then, we had a first pilot event in 2017 in Hamburg where we tested the operations, because it's a competition, right? It's a race, so you can't have anybody waiting at a station. And so we really had to test how this is going to play out with having hundreds and hundreds and eventually thousands of participants. We had, I think, if I remember correctly, 750 in our first pilot event. Always had the plan of, rolling it out on a bigger scale, did the German market to begin with. Then went to the United States in year 2. Pretty bold move in the beginning. A lot of people said, "Don't do it. It's going to be tough," which it was, and to some extent still is. But we were on a really good path back then. But then, obviously COVID was a big bummer for us. But I think looking at it now, we had a pretty strong comeback after COVID, I would say.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I mean, you came into this equation with a wealth of experience, I understand, within the fitness industry for about 2 decades. So talk to me a little bit about how you got into the industry and why this was a passion for you and what you were doing.
Ever since I was a little kid, I was involved with sports. I was a pretty decent basketball player when I grew up. made it to the national team as a young kid. Then never made it to the big leagues, but played professional, semi-professional basketball in Germany. And being a professional athlete, lifting weights and doing fitness was always a part of my life. And once I ended my basketball career in long time ago, I was getting into fitness training really quick, and had the pretty much classic career of starting as a personal trainer, then worked as a trainer in gyms, then managed a few gyms. Then I started my own CrossFit gym, had that for 5 years, and then started to get into designing and creating this amazing race where we're at right now. And I think it does take some experience. My wife is really experienced in the fitness industry. Our CEO, Christian, our other company owner, Moritz Förster, is an ex-hockey player. So everyone has a strong background in competition, fitness, and sports. And I think that combination was really beneficial for us creating this.
Well, and you mentioned CrossFit. I know sometimes there's people that are curious if there's a comparison there. So how do your races differentiate from a CrossFit competition that, let's say here in Canada, people may be more familiar with right now?
It's getting much better, I would say. But in the beginning, everyone was like, oh yeah, that's CrossFit that you guys do. And if you look at it from a first sight, yes, you could think this is somehow looking like CrossFit, but that's pretty much it, because CrossFit did an amazing marketing, with putting functional fitness on the map. But not everything that CrossFit does is CrossFit as itself. When you look at HYROX, the rowing and the ski art, it's not originated from CrossFit. Farmer's carry is mostly a strongman movement. Pulling a sled is from like strength and conditioning training from American football or other sports. Lunges, has been there forever. So it's pretty much only the wall balls that are really closely affiliated with HYROX. And then you have the one thing that no CrossFitter likes, it's the running, so this is, and I think it's pretty easy if you look at our rankings from the elite, but overall, you don't see any CrossFitter being in the top 15 HYROX athletes. And that obviously because it's a totally different sport. Yes, the movements might be really similar. Yes, part of the training. So training for a CrossFit competition might to some extent be similar to training for HYROX race. But if you only train the CrossFit way, you will have no chance of getting a good result in a HYROX race. You do need that endurance factor. You do need those long workouts. And it's a totally different game preparing a CrossFit athlete for a competition than preparing a HYROX athlete for a race. So yes, there are similarities. We love CrossFit. We want as many CrossFitters to come do our events, but we're not limited to CrossFit. And that's where the main difference sits. If you look at our events, we can consider HYROX a hub for many, many sports and many athletes. So you have CrossFitters that come to HYROX and go back to the gym and doing CrossFit. But you also have triathletes, marathon athletes. You have soccer players, basketball players. They all come to a HYROX and then go back to their sports. And then there's many, many, many athletes that come to a HYROX and they stick with it. And then they call themselves HYROX athletes. And this was our goal from the beginning. We wanted to create a new sport. Everyone was laughing at us, like a new sport. CrossFit is already there. And yes, they're a good way of training. But when you look at CrossFit from an event perspective, it's for no one. Or I would say a few really, really elite athletes that can qualify for the regionals or even the CrossFit Games. It's only for like a really small percentage of people. And HYROX, you don't have to qualify to do a HYROX. You just sign up, you train for it, you know what to expect. And it gives people a platform to actually, show what they achieved in their training. And it's a test of their fitness. And I think that's the biggest difference, that CrossFit is an amazing way of training, but they're missing that event perspective. And we offer both. So, bold statement, but I think in a few years we will be bigger than CrossFit.
Well, and I'm a fan of bold statements. And for yourself, when you're like, oh, they laughed at us. And how fun is it now to show the proof of this massive global expansion and success story that is HYROX? Because truthfully, as I say, it's impressive when there is a sport that I'm in a country that it hasn't even come here yet. And yet I'm hearing about it constantly within the fitness realm. And I'm sure that regular fitness and gym goers are slowly going to start cluing in as well. And I saw a quote when I was doing some research before I met you that I love too, that was like, for a lot of people, they say the gym is my sport, and how HYROX has kind of translated to create a platform to kind of show the evidence of what you've achieved in that sport. And that's really neat to see, because I think anyone that has embraced or loves a gym space knows everything that it does for us physically, mentally. And now you're providing a competitive platform that also builds a community around it. And you mentioned, yeah, COVID, obviously massive struggle within the gym industry, in the event space. I mean, that's a double whammy to a large degree. So the fact that you're able to come out of that because people are looking for that sense of community. So let's talk expansion. How has that journey been? Because you start Germany 700 with this test, and you guys have been moving very quickly.
Yes, we've done that, and that of course has different reasons. First of all, there's a really high demand, right? And coming back to what you said before is, soccer is a big sport in Germany. And we always said, if you look at fitness, and, we read certain surveys and we did a lot of research, and supposedly 52% of people that go to the gym, they say fitness is my sport. 20 years ago, if you ask people, they're like, oh yeah, I play badminton, I play tennis, I play golf, and I go to the gym just to stay fit. But now people say, what do you do? Well, I do fitness. This is what I do. And, when we looked at it, we were like, it's kind of like going to soccer practice 3 or 4 times a week, but you never have a game to actually play in. And that's frustrating for a lot of people, that you can do like an obstacle race and you can do a marathon, triathlon, but it's not stuff that people do in the gym every day. So, that's why we created HYROX, and we're in a way of becoming a sport, and a sport needs to be everywhere. It needs to be everywhere in the world. So, let me get to the reason why we expanded so quick. So reason number one is there was a demand, and we don't operate all our markets ourselves. We have licensees, so somehow a franchise system. And I'm not exaggerating that we get inquiries almost every day from all over the world. Hey, I want to bring HYROX to my country, and how can I do that? And of course, there's a lot of people that underestimate the effort operationally, but also financially, and to execute events of that scale is not something you do on a daily basis. So we really have to handpick the people that reach out. And the second of all, of course, there will be companies eventually that would try to copy us, but it's really hard to push someone out of the market if they were the first ones and they kind of set a really high standard, because what Germans are known for is being accurate, and that's what we try to deliver in our events. Like, try to be really professional from the moment people enter the venue, from the registration, backdrop, changing rooms, warm up, start. So everything is not at every event. We try to be as good as we can, but we try to be as professional as possible. So being a global company will just help us being the number one in this sport. And we created this sport. So, but you also have to be realistic. There might be others thinking, this is not a bad idea, so why don't we try something similar? So that's a combination why the expansion goes so rapid. First of all, there's a high demand. We see people from all over the world asking us, and then we want to be the number one.
Well, and what do you look for when, you do have this huge pool to choose from to basically represent the brand. And as you say, you have done such a good job in other markets and being meticulous in execution. So when you are looking at people that are looking to license or franchise the concept, ultimately, when you're handpicking, what are the top qualities that you're after?
What's really important for us,
we're still a pretty small company, staffing wise, and we really look at what type of people we work together. So, if there's not a personal relationship, it's probably tough to get into business with us.
but also
if we work with people or certain groups that have experience in running events, that's
obviously a big plus,
because it's not about only operational questions on how to run an event, but also how do you market an event? How do you define your target groups? You know, what does your network look like on creating this? Because, you know, putting on an event like this requires a lot of operational tasks. You need a lot of staff, but you also need a lot of third providers to
putting all that stuff together.
And if you
not familiar with the event business and not have a network within that, it will take forever to create an
event like that, even with a good onboarding process. So, you know, I would say, to answer your question with like 3 or 4 points, would be event experience is really beneficial. Having an amazing network in the fitness industry is really beneficial. And then having a good personal relationship to our partners is also key for us.
Fitness World's 16 British Columbia high-value, low-cost gyms are committed to helping people reach their fitness goals, whatever those may be. Exercise and movement play a pivotal role in supporting people's overall health and wellness, and it is Fitness World's mission to provide the facilities, services, and amenities to help you achieve your fitness your way. Visit fitnessworld.ca for more information.
I mean, the personal relationship is like number one, because you can train somebody to do almost anything, but if there isn't that rapport from the get-go, or I'm sure trust, especially when you have so much pride and have put so much work into creating something, you want to make sure that execution's on point on the other side.
On the back of our events, we've built a pretty successful gym affiliation program. So we affiliate and partner with many, many gyms all around the world. So if gyms are interested, you know, in becoming an official HYROX gym, offering HYROX classes to their members, getting hands on our programming, building a community inside of a gyms, where I think is a huge need, especially in like global gyms, bigger gyms like the LA Fitness, Anytime Fitness. They have an amazing, venues and gyms, but they're lacking that community part, and they're lacking that that concept when it comes to functional training. So I think, you know, we're really working to making it better every day. So if there's any gym owner listening and thinks, this could be interesting looking into, just reach out, and we'll have some of our team coming back to you and making your gym an official HYROX gym without changing the philosophy. I think that's also important to know, that it's not CrossFit. You buy a CrossFit affiliation, all you do is CrossFit. You can just add HYROX to your existing portfolio. So, you know, we never talked about the gyms and the gym affiliation program. So it's also, and there might be some gym owners listening and think that's interesting to look at. Feel free to.
Yeah. Where have you launched that so far? Because that's very smart as well.
Everywhere.
Nice.
Everywhere. We have over 1,000 gyms worldwide already.
That's why I said, you know,
CrossFit has done an amazing job, but that's where we want to be at eventually. So we want to be at 14, 15, 20,000 partner gyms in a few years. All offering HYROX classes, HYROX programming, building communities inside the gym, but also building a business for themselves. We're not building our gym affiliation system just to promote our events. Yeah. We're building the gym affiliation system so gym owners can, you know, increase their revenue and work on their member retention, have like a up and running functional fitness concept inside of their gym. So
on the topic of expansion, what are the upcoming plans? Because as you say, in this post-COVID era, it seems as though the momentum and the inertia just continues to push forward. So when you look at the short term, what do you see? And if you have a crystal ball, what are you hoping for in the long-term future of this?
Yeah, so of course, you know, we're far away from being where we want to be at. You know, sometimes you look at HYROX from the outside. Yes, we have an amazing and aggressive expansion rate, but we also have still a lot of potentials with existing events. We still, in a lot of markets, we're not selling out events, which is our overall goal. So first of all, this is still our focus, to be as good and as professional in the markets that we already where we're already in and where we're at. And then secondly, yes, we do have a lot in the pipeline. So we try to cover pretty much any big capital city in the world. And if you look at Europe, France will be the next market that we will be entering. We just entered the Italian market. we have a really great partner in
Spain, so they're looking to enter the Portugal as well. So that's on the list. You probably saw that we launched the first events in Australia. Singapore is going to be next. And Asia is a big country, so expect some Asian countries to follow pretty soon. And then, of course, some other interesting markets would be where we haven't, where we are in conversations, but haven't had an event yet. Is for sure South Africa and South America. Which is obviously also, like, if you look at countries like Brazil, it's an amazing and big fitness market, but it's also special. So we need people that are actually from Brazil to run events in Brazil, because it's a different type of marketing, different audience. But these are probably the next steps for us.
Yeah, it's so exciting to see. I mean, every single time I have these conversations, it just shows how fitness really is something that unifies people. How does it feel? Because I do love the concept, how it is something that's accessible to everyone. I mean, demographics, I'm sure, span such a tremendous range. How does it feel to see people enter the competition with the nerves and then come out the other side of the experience? What type of feedback have you been getting from event to event?
Of course, it's a lot of people tell us it's something they've been missing. Like, they finally have something I can
train for. I've been waiting for this all my life. It's a lot of feedbacks that we get. But
like, the biggest and the greatest, I would say, achievement from our side, at least I can speak for myself. I just came back
from Rotterdam in the Netherlands yesterday. We had a big event there. There was a woman, and I saw her in her second kilometer. So she was in the race for like 15 to 20 minutes. She was already walking. She was a little overweight. She was like, I already have cramps. I was like, don't give up. She was like, oh, I'll never give up. I'll never give up. I'll do this. And I was like, I don't know if she can actually make it, because, she was really suffering, and she had like over an hour ahead of her. And then I saw her at the finish line. And once she passed the finish line, she started crying, because it was such an achievement for her. And, I think yes, it's a lot about physique. It's a lot about performance, but it's also a lot about giving people confidence, something where maybe their friends or their family said, oh, you're not good enough to do this, you're not fit, you don't train, and then they go out and do it and they finish, and it gives them a different confidence in themselves, not only in their body but also mentally, right? And there's always, now on social media, you read it every day, believe in yourself and you can achieve anything that you dream of. And yes, to some extent it might be true, in a lot of cases it's not true, but for that, I think HYROX is something where people looked at maybe 5 months ago like, oh, this is no way. And then they finish and they're like, I did it. And there's more. And a lot of people had doubts and thought I couldn't do it, but I did it. And then they're in a totally different state of mind. And I think that, to me, gives me more pleasure than seeing an elite breaking a world record.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Because it's like that sense of accomplishment is something that you cannot put a price on. It cannot be bought. It has to be earned. And you're providing a platform for people to do that for themselves. When you were speaking earlier when we were talking about the fact that the gym is the sport for so many of us. And, I come from like the fitness competitor side, where you literally get 2 minutes on stage after months and months of hard work, of diet and execution. And for me, I'm like, it's a fun experience. Generally, the shows they put on, it's enjoyable in the background, but it's a lot of work to just stand there for 2 seconds. Like when I hear something like this, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I can prove to you that I can do all the things that achieved X physique. So you really are kind of shaking things up. And I think having that element that's approachable to people, because I don't know what the statistics are in Germany, but I know here in Canada, the amount of people that are inactive when it comes to physical activity is really staggering. Similar issues, obviously, in the United States. And I think the more things that we have that kind of provide a goal for somebody to maybe take that first step and think one day, maybe it's on their calendar a year from now, 2 years from now, like I'm going to train and do this. And you're providing that moment for them to then walk across the finish line. I'm curious, in the actual competitions, how long is it? Like, how is it structured through the experience?
So do you want me to walk you through the whole race
Yeah,
of how?
please. Because I'm sure there's people listening now that's like, game on. Let's go push and pull some shit.
Okay, so you started with the 1K run, right? After the first K,
You do 1,000 meters at the ski erg, the Concept 2 ski erg. Then you go back on the running track, you do another 1K run. And then you have a strength exercise, which is the sled push. So you push it for 50 meters, which is 4 lanes. You push it 4 times. Then you enter the running track again and do another 1K. And then you face another strength exercise, which is more upper body. It's a sled pull. Again, 50 meters, 4 lanes.
you enter the running course, run 1K, and then you hit probably one of the biggest beasts.
Not because it's complicated to do, but it's not that people, it's not about winning the burpee broad jumps, but it takes a lot out of your body, and it's really important how you do them, how fast you do them, and how much you have left in the tank after you do.
I've thrown up
then you
during
run-
burpees, so I bet.
Yeah, 80 meters. It's a long distance, and
After that, you run another 1K. You do 1,000 meters of rowing, which a lot of people kind of consider as a little recovery in between. Then you do another 1K of running, and you do farmer's carry for 200 meters with 2 kettlebells. Then you run
another K. You do sandbag lunges, 100 meters with a
sandbag on your back, so different weights, obviously. And then you go on your last run, and at the end, you do 100 wall balls. Now, that does sound a lot.
It is a lot, but you can definitely break it down. So for people who are hearing about HYROX for the
First time, you can do it as an individual. In the pro category, the distance stay the same, but you have heavier weights, male and female. Then you have the open category as an individual, lower weights than the pro division, obviously. Then you have the doubles division, where you can do the same race in a team of 2. The bad news is both have to do the running. That's the bad news. So it's not you run and I stay, but you can split the workouts up
as needed, which is, an amazing chance of
doing this with anybody. And, we don't care how much work you do and your partner does. So you can split it up 50-50, which would make the most sense. But you could do all the workouts and your partner doesn't do anything, but the running you have to do together. And let me go into that
a little bit, because, when you look at sports, and there's not many sports you can do with
your partner or your sister or your best friend. When you're a good tennis player and your husband is a bad tennis player, you'll be bored, and he's going to be frustrated. And there's not many sports that you should do with somebody else. Both will have fun.
When you do a double, you can do it with anyone.
Yes, in a perfect scenario, both have the same capabilities. But for example, I got sick beforehand, but I wanted to do doubles with my dad. My dad is 72. And he was really worried about the stations. But I was like, don't worry, I can do the stations. We just do the run together. So with those doubles is an amazing division. It's either same sex or mixed. And then you have the relay, which is a 4-person team. Same race, same distances, but only one team member does 2 times of running in 2 stations. And you divide it up in the team of 4. You can do any station you want, as long as the whole race is finished at the end. So because in the beginning we had people like, oh, that's too tough. People will not be able to do it. They were like, should we make it easier? Should we make it a 500-meter run, kind of make a light version of HYROX? And they were like, no, we keep it the same. We just break it down to more people. And then the perfect journey would be doing it as a relay, went good. Next thing I was like, grabbing a friend or a partner or a sibling. Let's do it in a double. That went well. Then you do it as an individual in the open category. You might have to do it a few times before feeling comfortable. And the end goal would be doing it in a pro division with pro weights. So this is really, really important, and it's also important to know that there's no time cap. So we just had a person in Rotterdam finishing the race in 3 hours and 33 minutes. Which is fine. It's kind of like the marathon. We don't kick anyone out. You take as long as you need to. And the fastest time by Hunter McIntyre is 54 minutes. So there's a wide range, but we always wanted to create that races where the elite athlete,
or this turn around, the absolute average guy or girl is doing the exact same thing, than the pro. It's kind of like a marathon, right? You see the guy from Eritrea finishing the race in 2 hours. And then you have people finishing a marathon in 8 hours, but they do the same thing as the top guy or girl. It doesn't matter. They just took longer. And that's kind of why we created HYROX, to make this for everyone. And even if she took 3 hours, she was still giving it her best. She was just as tired as the elite. She just took longer, which is totally fine.
Well, and I'm sure, I mean, I've seen so many videos and marathons of it happening too, but with the community you're creating, everyone is probably cheering that person on through those final moments, right?
Sure.
And like the energy from that is always the best. I like, those are the types of videos that almost make you emotional because the person hasn't given up. And when you're in that situation, your brain can give you almost every reason why you could or you should, and quieting that and actually finishing. I mean, you're giving that gift to people. And I just think it's really cool. As I say, I speak a lot to the physical inactivity crisis that we have globally, and to see just something else enter the equation that could spark something in another and have such an approachable way to get them started is very cool. So my biggest thing is when you come into Canada, because now I'm hearing about this thinking I've got to do this.
One thing I want to add, Christy, which is really important, what you just said. Yes, the judges, volunteers, and the spectators, they always cheer on the last person to run up the finish stage. But what's also really important, and me having a big history with CrossFit, there's people that hate being last, and they don't like being cheered on or being the center of attention, being last. And that's also a big advantage of our race, because we start in every 10 minutes, a new start wave starts. So nobody in the whole hall can tell if you're first or last or anywhere.
Smart.
So you're always running around in circles. You have people passing you. You have people behind, and nobody except our timing system knows where you at and what division you were in and what place you were in. So, but unfortunately, there's one person at the end that will be last to finish.
Right.
And a lot of times, I have to say, it's a pro man that thought, yeah, I'm a pro, I can do this. But then, he shouldn't have gone pro, and he takes 2 hours. So we're like, okay, guys, we're ready to break down. But I think it's really important to know for people that have never heard about HYROX that even if you don't feel comfortable doing something like this, you won't be exposed, because nobody knows where you're at. You go at your own pace. That's totally fine. And nobody will point a finger and be like, oh, look at this person, she or he's last. It's not going to happen because nobody knows. I think that's important.
That's a really smart part of the structure. Cause that's true. I'm like, some people love it, but then others are like, I just want to do this. I'm in my zone and I just need to concentrate and let me be. So you really have thought of everything. Before I let you go, I know we talked about all those motivational quotes that are around. So what is yours if somebody needs their day fueled, or perhaps to fuel them up to take a step to do something that's a little bit scary on the outside, but not in habit? What's your little motivational nugget of wisdom you could share with us to fuel our day?
What happens, and I think you can relate because you've done competitions yourself. People always are looking for goals or things that help them reach their goal. And a lot of times these goals aren't really hard to grasp. They're like, oh yeah, I want to lose 5 kilos. Yes, I want to gain muscle, or I want to be healthier. I want to do this, but they, it's a goal. They have a vision in their head, but it's really hard for them to get started. So what happens if once you sign up for a competition, everything changes. It might not change in the second, but let's say you paid $100 to join a race, and that race is coming up, and you tell your friends about it, that you signed up. And then day is coming. So maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks out, you're like, oh, man, I have to start training. Like this event is coming up. I've told people about it. And then everything changes. And that's why we use the claim a lot, where we said we're creating athletes. We're changing people's mindset from just training to actually training towards a goal, training with purpose. So HYROX will be that purpose for you in many ways. It will change your diet all of a sudden. You will look at what you eat. It will change the way you sleep. Might change the way you work. You might not, give everything to your job because you think, no, I have to train tonight. I have to get ready. And it changes your mindset maybe towards alcohol. It changes your mindset towards many things just to living a healthier life, because you know that day is coming. And
it's the same what happened with marathon or in running. People go jog, they jog, and then they sign up for a race. And then they think like, what running shoe should I use? What do I wear during running? And then the next time you see him 5 months later, and what do you do? Yeah, I'm a runner. It doesn't matter if he or she only runs a 5K or finishes a marathon in 8 hours. They call themselves a runner. And I think sign up for HYROX if you're always, looking for goal or fitness, and it will change a lot for you.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, Jacob, I so appreciate you taking the time. So love what you're doing. As I say, you're 100% right. You saw it. There was like this niche in the market and you're running with it. And I cannot wait to see where this adventure takes y'all. Can't wait till it makes its way over to me. But hey, just an excuse to travel if it takes a little bit.
For sure. I
mean, Canada to whatever, Chicago,
or it's not too far of a
no. And like now I'm like challenge accepted. I'm going to start my training.
Good. But you need to sign up for a race first, because then you always have an excuse for
it's very true.
Or something will come up, a vacation, a job, or this or that. But that's why you need to sign up.
Absolutely. I love it. Already the accountability. I can tell that personal trainer is still within you.
You've just listened to All Things Fitness and Wellness. This episode was brought to you by Fitness World. Your fitness, your way. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss out on hearing from industry thought leaders and influencers. We are on a mission to help everyone live a life fit and well.